Hi there, today I'm going to show you how to build the assembly for this seat stay part. I like to work with assembly layout sketches, so let's dive right in. I've already set up a new layout sketch. This is the front view and it has the shock mount location, the yoke location, and the clevis pivot location. Obviously there's some dimensions that are associated with that, 425 and 95, and now we can start constraining parts to this. So let's insert a new component. Now let's start with the yoke. If I place this, SolidWorks automatically constrains it and it's fixed, but it's not in the location that I want. So right click on that part, hit float, that removes all the constraints, and now we can actually use some other constraints to get it in a position that we want. I like to use top level reference geometry for constraining, so that means planes, axes, and other reference geometry that you've created. So let's go ahead and select the top plane of that, and we'll use the top plane of the assembly. That's one constraint, and then I want to use the front plane of the yoke and the front plane of the assembly. Didn't pick that. Hold on. Let's clear that. So I want the and the front. Alright, let's call that good. And then we've the last one, we got the axes and the pivot there. So now we have the part fully constrained. All the degrees of freedoms were removed. And this axis is at the top level in the part, same as with these planes. So now I'm going to introduce another part. And it's going to be the clevis. And I'm going to position that right there. I'm going to roughly position it where I want it to be. So in the top view, I'm going to move it out. Oh, grab a plane there. I'm going to move that out a little bit. And then in the front view, I'm going to move that up a little bit. That's close enough so where I can constrain it. So again, top plane of the part and top plane of the assembly. Constrain those. So that's a solid. And then I got the axes of this part. That's going to be coincident with that axis. And then finally I got this face and that face. I don't want them to be coincident. I want them to be a distance apart. And I know that that distance is 146 divided by 2. You can actually enter equations in the dialog box and it will do the math for you. So that one's now constrained. It's all good, and we have one on the other side as well. So introduce a new part, hit control and then drag the part out. That will make another copy of this part. Let's position that, rotate it around a little bit. That looks about right, and position that roughly where we want it. That looks pretty good, and then move it up a little bit. Okay, so now constrain that part as well. So I'm selecting the top plane and the top plane of the assembly, constrain those. Same steps here. We got the axes that's coincident with that point, and then we got the front plane and that inner face, and it's that face, and that is a distance of 146 divided by 2. And let's constrain that. So now I have my major components in place, and they can't be fixed anymore. So now I need to position the tube, and that's a little different. You know, there is nothing good to constrain the tube to, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another sketch on the top plane of the assembly that will allow me to constrain those tubes. So on the top plane, I'm going to sketch one line, sketch another line, and I'm going to give that a midpoint relation. Oh, that doesn't want me to do that one and that one. Get a midpoint relation. And what this will allow me to do is it will allow me to create basically centerline geometry that I can use to constrain the tubes that I want to put in place. And so finish up this sketch, and it doesn't matter if it's 100% accurate, it just matters if it's fully constrained, which it is right now. And then I'm going to open my my seat stay part. That's the one. And I gotta get rid of something here. Hold on for a second. Bear with me. There's a bunch of configurations in there. I'm going to do the as extruded. This part is used in multiple assemblies, and I'm going to introduce this as as extruded part in my seat stay assembly. So now I'm going to insert component, existing part, and that will be the seat stay. Place that, and the top plane of that I want to constrain to the top plane of the assembly. There we have one. And then the front plane of that part I want to constrain to that center line sketch that we just created. Let's turn on my origins, see where I'm at, and I'm going to move that a little bit. And I want to pick that origin of the sketch, and then the right plane. Doesn't really matter what you pick as long as you pick solid geometry. Let's give that a 402 dimension. And so now turn off my origins. This part is fully constrained. Now it's not exactly where I want it to be, but I can play with that with my sketch that I've now created. And this sketch, even though it got dropped down to the bottom, it's actually at the top level. It doesn't reference any of the parts geometry, it's just referencing geometry in the sketch itself. I want to bring that in a little bit, so let's say 46. Rebuild. I want to bring that in a little more. Let's say 44. And I'm going to go in a little more. 42. That brings it in where I roughly want it to be. This looks pretty good. I think I can bring it out just a hair more. It's at 164. Let's go to 165. And so now I have a tube that has that is placed to reference geometry, and I'm going to open that part, and I am going to create another configuration. I don't want to add a derived configuration. So we're going to call that video for now. And so now back to my assembly. I started out with the as extruded, but we just added a new configuration because we're going to create some in-context relations here. So now it's the video configuration, and now we can say that we want to edit this part, and I'm going to create some surfaces that we're going to use to miter this part. And we're going to use the offset surface command, 0 offset, pick that face, and I'm also going to pick this face. Alright, so those surfaces have now been created at the part level. If I open the part, you can see the surfaces. I'm going to extend these surfaces just a little bit so that I have a little more room to cut. Make sure that they protrude all the way through the part, which is important, otherwise the cut with surface won't work. So made that one a little bigger, and let's repeat that for the other side. Make that one a little bigger. Alright, so now I have surfaces that I can cut with. So do a cut with surface, and we're going to miter this part. Done. And repeat that. And that's over there. Oh. Cut with surface, that surface, yes. So now the part is all mitered. I can actually get rid of those bodies. I no longer need them. It's a little cleaner. And so they're at the bottom of the tree. They become a feature. It's just a much cleaner part. So now I have a bunch of features that I've created that are in context of the assembly. I want to organize those in a new folder. And I'm going to call that video assembly cuts. So if I create other in context features for this part, I'll organize them in a different folder, and as I go through the configurations, these folders will suppress or unsuppress. So save that part out, go back to my assembly, and now because this is the video configuration, you can see that those in context cuts have propagated. And since this part is symmetrical, I can use the same configuration to introduce another part. And let's rotate that around a little bit. Go that way and go that way. way. So now I can constrain this part as well. Get the top plane again and the top plane of the assembly. Constrain those two, yeah, pretty happy with that. And then the front plane and the center line geometry, constrain those. Yeah, it looks pretty good. View my origins. Now let's move this out a little bit. I want to do that one with the right. It's going to default to coincident. I didn't want that. We went with 402, so let's do that again. And so now I have the parts fully constrained. You know, can't move this one, and I have my assembly that's built that I can drop in. The one thing you wanna watch for is that if you go to your options and system options, there's under assemblies. It's actually not here, and of course I'm not external references. You want to set this to allow multiple contexts for parts when editing an assembly. By default, this is turned off, and so that won't allow you to create multiple in-context assemblies. And as I mentioned before, I use this part in many different assemblies, and I do all these miter cuts according to the assembly, and so those are all different in-context relations that you can keep track of by using configurations. And this part is now identical to the one that we have in the frame assembly, and the whole frame is built this way. And in our next video we'll probably do another one and see if we can get you guys more comfortable with doing that. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.